Hello, it's Thursday. I've just realised I've been saying hello, it's Thursday when these have been probably coming out on every other day of the week, but let's just go with it, shall we? Today we are tackling the final part of our December project, and that is Santa. Now, he is my first real attempt at a human or doll kind of figure, so I hope you guys like him because he was a bit of a stretch for me. And the good news is about this project is I knew I was leaving him till last and I knew it was going to basically be Christmas Day already. So he is a no-sew Santa and he should work up really quickly for you. Now, let's talk about the tools and materials you need to make this final piece of the project. Okay, so to make our no-sew Santa, you're going to need 8-ply 100% acrylic yarn in 4 main colours. So you're going to need a red, a white, a skin tone or a pink, some black, and you're also just going to need a tiny amount of yellow for stitching on his belt buckle. You are also going to need a pair of 9mm safety eyes, your 3.5mm hook, a pair of scissors, some stuffing, and a darning needle for stitching on that belt. But that's it. So today we're going to start by making his arms. Now there is a left arm and a right arm, and the only difference between them is where we position his thumbs. Okay, so we're going to start now black. So I'm going to start by making the left arm. So start by making a magic ring of 6. And then do 2 rows of 6 single crochet around. We're just working up his mittens. So just like that, you should have this little lump. So in the next round, we're going to be adding his thumb. Now his thumb is worked as a triple crochet. On the screen right now, there'll be a left-handed thumb and a right-handed thumb. I'm going to be doing the left-handed one on screen now. So for the left thumb, we're going to do 2 single crochet. And then we're going to do a triple crochet. So to do a triple crochet, yarn over your hook twice, insert your hook through the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So you should have 4 loops on your hook there. I'm going to yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the second 2, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 to finish off the stitch. So that is the triple crochet that is going to form our thumb. I'm then going to finish this round with 3 single crochet. So what you'll notice when making the right arm is that the thumb is just in a different location on the hand to keep it facing forward because you know, anatomy, biology, all that jazz. So that triple crochet should pop outwards and form a little thumb for your mitten. So we're going to do 1 more row in black and then change to our white. Like so. Now at this point, the starting tail is annoying me a lot. So I'm going to trim that off and work nice and cleanly. So I'm going to trim that off and tuck that inside. There we go. So now we are going to be doing our first color change of many this project. If you don't like color changes, this one isn't for you. So for this pattern, you'll always be working your color changes in the stitch before you need the new color to be active. So what that means is I'm going to frog that last stitch of black that I did. And instead we're going to change to our white in that stitch. So all color changes in this pattern are going to be done the same way. Insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over with your old color and pull up a loop so you have 2 loops of your old color on your hook. Then you're going to hold that old color out of the way, grab a strand of your new color and pinch it at the base of the stitch. So you'll note that it's tailing off down the same way as your old color is. I'm going to yarn over with my new color and pull it through both loops and finish off that stitch with it. So now you should be able to see, or you would be able to see if it wasn't in black, that you've got a completed single crochet in your old color and your new color is on your hook ready to go. So because I'm not going to be using that black again and that white is pretty long, I'm going to trim off both of those tails. You could tie them in a knot if you wanted to as well. Because this is so small, I am not going to be able to do that because sausage fingers. But what I will do is tuck both of those down inside, like so, And now we're ready to go with our white. So the first round of white is worked in front post single crochet. Lots of techniques used for this Santa, I'm afraid. With crochet, we normally work through the loops on top of the stitch. When we're doing post stitching, it means we're working around the post of the stitch instead, so kind of to the side. And front post means that we're working from the front of the piece, round the post, back to the front of the piece, and then working our single crochet as per usual. So we're going to work 6 of those around the mitten in our white. Like so. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The reason we do front post, even though it's difficult, is because it gives us a nice clear cuff over the top of the mitten. If you really can't make this work, it's too small and black is too tricky, just do regular crochet. It just means you won't get quite as much definition in your arms. So for the next row, we're going to work 6 single crochet around, just back through the loops again. So that's where we are at the moment. We've got a mitten and we've got the white cuff at the end of Santa's sleeve. So now in the last stitch of that row, we want to change to our red. So I'm going to frog the last stitch we worked in white. And we're going to do another color change. So now we have our red ready to go. And we are going to do another round of front post stitching. So again, we're not going to work in the loops, we're going to work around the post of the stitch. Like so. At this point, I am just going to trim off my tails again. You will thank yourself for working neatly in this particular project. So this is just forming good habits right at the start. And then we're going to finish off this arm by working 2 rows of 6 single crochet. And finish off. So I'm going to tuck this inside just to keep it out of the way. So I'm going to just insert my hook through the next stitch and pull it to the inside of the piece, and then tuck it down inside using the end of my hook. There we go. So there is our left arm done, and we know it's the left arm because you'll note that you've got a nice clean cuff on the side of it facing outwards. All of our row zigzaggy changes are going to be hidden away on the inside. So on the front face, you've got the little L. That means it's a left hand. And you are going to need a right hand as well, just like this. So I can tell this is the right hand because again, we've got a nice clean cuff and all of the zigzaggy stuff is hidden underneath. So I'm going to pop his 2 arms to one side. We're not going to need them for a while. And the rest of this Santa is worked all in one piece. So we're actually going to start at the top of the hat and start working down. So grabbing our white, start with a magic ring of 6. Now we're forming his pom-pom at the moment, so now we want to increase out, so put an increase into each stitch around. Like so. And then we're going to decrease back down to 6 stitches around. So I'm using invisible decreases to do this. And just in case you've never encountered invisible decreases before, what you do is instead of inserting your hook and pulling up a loop in each stitch, you pick up, I'm just going to wait for that car to go past. You pick up just the front loops of the 2 stitches you're decreasing across. You yarn over and you pull through both of those. So you should have 2 loops on your hook, and you yarn over and complete your stitch. So that's how I do my invisible decreases. And we're doing 6 of those around. This will work with normal decreases too, if that's what you're comfortable using. Okay, so that is the pom-pom going on top of Santa's hat. So the next thing we're going to do is change to our red and start working up this cone properly. So as with all color changes, we need to change in the stitch before we need the new color to be active, which means we're going to be changing our colors in a decrease. So I'm going to frog that decrease I just worked, and I'm going to start by picking up the front loops of both the stitches yarning over with my old color and pulling up a loop. And from here, it's just the same as all the other color changes we've been doing. Just like that, we have our white decrease completed and red is now on our hook ready to go. So just to lock that color change in place, I'm going to work the first row before I tidy up all these ends. So our first row in red is 6 single crochet around. Just like that. So now I'm going to stop and deal with this octopus of yarn coming out the other side of it. So being careful not to snip off the active strand that we're actually using. The rest of these can be trimmed off, and we're going to just tuck them down inside the pom-pom. You shouldn't need any stuffing at this point, unless you're using really big yarn, but that's a judgment call for you. So at this point, we're going to build up 8 relatively simple rows to finish building up the cone of his hat. And in the last stitch of row 12, we're going to change back to our white. Okay, so the first row of our white, we're going to be working in front post, and we're going to do 24 single crochet around. Like so. Now, the reason we did that front post wasn't just to get that nice clear line between our red and our white. The reason we did it is because it actually leaves us with 2 sets of loops. We've got a set of white loops and a set of red loops. Now those red loops we're going to be using again later, so don't forget that they're there. So in the next row of white, we're going to be increasing up to 30 stitches around. Before decreasing back down to 24 in the row after it. Like so. So that has built out the fur at the bottom of his hat, and it's going to be looking a little disproportionate at the moment because the next row we're going to work is going to curl it under to form the rim of his hat that you can see on the finished one here. Okay, so row 16, we're going to be working 24 single crochet around. However, we're going to be working through the white loops as well as the red loops that we skipped a couple of rows ago. So you're going to be working through both sets of loops for this round. That sounds kind of tricky, but once you start working it, you'll realize that it's actually pretty straightforward. And you'll see straight away that it starts curling over the brim of your hat. Because Santa's hair and beard are also white, sometimes it's hard to get that nice definition between the bits of him. So this was my solution to give it a really nice hard edge. Now there will be 24 sets of white loops as well as 24 sets of red loops, and all we're doing is matching them together. So just like that. So there is Santa's hat done, and now we're going to continue on and work up his face. Now we form that by swapping backwards and forwards between our white and whatever skin tone you're choosing to use. So we're going to start by working 2 repeats of 3 single crochet and then an increase, all in white. So in the last stitch we did there, so the second stitch of that increase, we're going to change to our skin tone. And just because I like you guys, I'll swap and use a slightly darker shade so you can actually see it on camera. Now, don't trim off your white. Instead, we're going to carry it with us. And that just means that when you're working your stitches, insert your hook underneath that strand as well, and we're going to work our stitches over the top. This pattern does feel a little bit like a final exam for the year. Just like, here, let me test everything that we've been playing with over the last 12 months. So we're going to do 8 single crochet in front post. So in order to do that with carrying yarn as well, what I'm going to do is insert my hook from the front to the back of the stitch, make sure that I'm looping the strand I'm carrying over the top, and then back out the front. So it's still from the front back to the front, it's just I've looped it around that strand that we're carrying with us as well. So in this final stitch of pink, we're going to swap back to our white. So I've already pulled up a loop in my old color. I'm going to hold the pink out of the way. Because I've been stitching over the top of my white, I have it here ready to go, but yours might be back here. All you have to do is grab it and pull it forward, making sure not to like bend your work too much. So yarn over with your white and finish off that pink stitch. So there we have the first part of his forehead forming. Now, whenever I'm mixing rows with front post and regular crochet, I like to count backwards from my hook to work out where I should be stitching next, because this is the easiest way to find or lose a stitch in a round. So I'm going to count backwards. And we want the 26th stitch because we've worked 2 increases in this round already. So that's stitch 26, that's the one I'm going to be working in. Now we're going back to working through both loops. I'm going to work over the top of my pink as I work around, and we're going to work 2 more repeats of an increase and then 3 single crochet. If it peeks through your white, you can give it a little bit of a pull to pull it to the back, or just tell people that Santa's hair is thinning. So there is round 1 of the face done. So moving into round 2, still carrying the pink along behind with us, we're going to work all in white, 2 repeats of 4 single crochet and an increase. And in the last stitch of that increase, we're going to change back to our pink. So now we'll be working in our pink and carrying our white along with us. And I'm going to work 8 single crochet and then an increase. Now that increase will fall in a white stitch, that's correct. Now in the second stitch of that increase, I'm going to be changing back to my white. I'm then going to work 4 single crochet, an increase, and then 4 single crochet to finish the round. So that's what he's looking like from the front so far. So we're about to build the last row of his face, and in it we're going to be adding the puff stitch for his nose. So we start by working 2 repeats of an increase and then 5 single crochet, all in our white. Changing back to our pink in that last stitch, we are then going to work 4 single crochet in our pink, and then our puff stitch for his nose. So we've worked enough puff stitches over the course of this project that you should know them by now, but just in case, to do a puff stitch, what you do is yarn over your hook, insert it through the stitch and yarn over and pull up a loop. So that will leave you with 3 loops on your hook, and you're going to repeat that process of yarning over, inserting your hook, yarning over and pulling up a loop until you have 11 loops on your hook in total. So that's 5, 7, 9, and then 11. So once you have 11 on your hook, you're going to yarn over a final time and pull through all of them. Scooch it down a little bit and then chain 1 to finish the stitch. So that's going to be his nose. And you will note that that leaves you with 2 sets of loops on the underside of your stitch. When you work the next round, be careful to only work in one of them and skip the other. I tend to skip the chain because otherwise you're gaining a stitch where we don't want to. I'm then going to work 5 single crochet to finish off my pink, changing back to my white in the last stitch. So that is the last stitch we're going to be working in pink. So at this point I'm going to trim it off, leaving a longish tail to stop it from unraveling, and continue on just in my white. It's 3 single crochet, and then an increase, and then 5 single crochet, and an increase. So you should have 36 stitches around now, not including the chain that we'll be skipping on the puff. Now note with the edge of that pink, I ended up working my stitches over it just to weave it in. So that means that I won't have to go back and tie it in a knot or anything later. So with that row finished, we're going to stop and pop our eyes in because that is his whole face worked up. Now the positioning of these eyes is pretty simple. We're just going to place them 1 row above the nose with 1 stitch between them and the nose on either side. Just like that. So when you're happy with it, pop the backs on. So we have 3 more rows we're going to be working in our white to finish working up his head, and then we'll be swapping to red for his body. So in the final row of the white, you're going to encounter 10 back post single crochet. So we've done front post, which is when we insert our hook from the front back to the front. But to do back post, you insert your hook from the back of the piece around the post back to the back of the piece. So that is important because it does dictate which way around your loops will be facing. So you are going to work 10 of those. Like so. And what that's going to do is once again give us 2 sets of loops, one facing in and one facing outwards. And we're going to keep working up the main body of Santa using the ones facing in, but later on we're going to come and join onto these ones facing outwards to build up the rest of his beard. So that is why that row of stitching is in there. And just like with front post, I'm going to count backwards from my hook to work out which stitch I'm supposed to work into next. And I know I want the 28th stitch because we started at 31 and we've done 3 decreases already. So stitch 28 is the one I want to work into next. And I'm just going to finish off that row. So in the last stitch of that row, I'm going to change back to our red. And that is it for the white, so trim that off. And then my red is on my hook, ready to go. So now we've swapped back to our red. In the next row, we're going to be attaching our arms. So in order to get around to where we're going to attach our first arm, first up, we're going to front post 6 single crochet. Like so. Now in the next 3 stitches, we're going to be attaching an arm. But which arm shall it be? Well, when Santa's facing away from you, it's going to be his right arm. And you have to remember that thumbs always face forwards. So this is his right arm because with the ugly side of the cuff against his body, his thumb will face forwards. So I'm going to squish this arm flat. It is 6 stitches around, so you should have 3 pairs of openings you can work through. And we're going to line the opening of the arm up with the next 3 stitches we're going to work into. And note that the ugly side of the cuff is facing outwards because his arm is flipped up above his head like a hey type of gesture. That's because once it's stitched in, it'll fold down and only the nice side will be showing. So that's what's going to happen there. So we're going to work the next 3 single crochet through both layers of the arm and into the beard. So that's his first arm attached. We're then going to work 10 single crochet around. So those stitches should fall just under where we did our back post stitching. And then in the next 3 stitches, we're going to be attaching his other arm. So once again, it's going to be lining up the opening with the next 3 stitches with the ugly cuff facing outwards so that it will be tucked away when we're done, and work 3 single crochet through all 3 layers. Just like so. So both of his arms are now attached. And we're going to work 4 front post single crochet to finish off the round. So his arms now attached. His thumbs are both facing forwards. So we're now going to work the next 7 rows to finish building up the trunk of his body. So we're going to work a couple of rows in red, and then we're going to swap to our black to add a belt, before swapping back to our red to start working on his pants. Alright, so there is the main trunk of his body worked up, and so the last thing to do is to split that opening in half and create 2 little stubby legs. So in order to do that, we're going to work 3 single crochet. Now that should leave you in the middle of his back. If it doesn't, but you're only 1 or 2 stitches away, just work an extra stitch or frog an extra stitch. It means that you have lost count at some point, but that's fine. It doesn't need to be a situation where you have to go all the way back. And then we're going to chain 4. We are going to have to work into these stitches, so don't chain too tightly. We're then going to skip the next 12 stitches. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So being sure that you're inserting your hook from the outside, because you're skipping stitches, not just jumping across the gap. You're then going to work 9 single crochet to finish your round. So we now have a new round that we're working in. So ignoring this opening over here, we're going to continue working up and around here to form his leg. So the next round is 16 single crochet. So we're going to work 3 single crochet and then 4 into the chains Make sure you only work through one loop of the chains because we will need to work in the other loop when we do the other leg. And then we're going to work 9 single crochet to finish off the round. Changing to our black in the last stitch. Like so. We can then trim off the red. We're then going to work 2 single crochet and a decrease and repeat that 4 times. And then work 6 decreases around and finish off. Now there will still be a slight opening in the middle there. And what I'm going to do is take that tail and weave it through the 6 remaining stitches and pull tight to close. Tuck that end away inside. Okay, so you may have noticed we haven't stuffed him yet, and now is our chance. So through this leg opening, we are going to stuff him all the way to the top of his hat. Now be careful to make sure that you get stuffing around where the stems of those safety eyes are. Now, you don't want to end up with a bubble-headed Santa. And also be careful to get down inside the leg we've already finished as well. So this bit of mine is still empty, but now comes the time for us to attach the final leg. So with our red on our hook, I'm going to turn him over, and in that first stitch after where his first leg attaches, so what would essentially be his butt crack, we are going to join in our red. I'm going to do it using a standing single crochet, but you can also slip stitch, then chain 1 and work a single crochet into the same stitch. So that's the first stitch of our round. We're then going to work 11 single crochet around until we reach where the other leg is attached. And then work 4 single crochet into the other side of the chain loops where we first split the opening. Like so. So that should leave you with an opening that is 16 stitches around. So we're going to do another round of 16. And in the last stitch, we're going to change back to our black. We're going to work 4 repeats of 2 single crochet and then a decrease to get our opening down to 12 stitches. Like so. I'm going to trim off the red, which you could have done at the start of that row as well. And now is your last chance to stuff. So I'm going to take a moment and stuff the rest of his body and that leg, before working the final 6 decreases and finishing off. So there is the majority of your Santa done, and you can fold his arms down now. They will pop up a little bit at first, but they can be trained to hang down by his sides. Don't worry about that. So all he's really missing at this point is his beard and his belt buckle. So we're going to start with the belt buckle. So with a small amount of yellow, we're going to stitch on just a very loose little square shape. Oh no, I picked his nose. Okay, I fixed it. All right, we're going to stitch on a loose little square shape. And that is going to form his belt buckle. Easy as pie. And that is the extent of the sewing required in this pattern, by the way. You probably could have accomplished the same thing with your hook, just weaving a piece of yarn in and out, if you really, really hate needles. So now all we're going to do is attach his beard. So grab your white and identify that row of loops we left unworked before. And just because I work right to left, I'm going to join in the rightmost stitch, but it doesn't really matter if you prefer to work from left to right. It just means you'll be working up the other way. And I'm going to join once again with a standing single crochet, but once again you can simply slip stitch and then chain 1 and single crochet into that first stitch to get you started. So that counts as the first stitch in our row, and then we're going to work 9 more across his face. So there we go, that's number 10. We are then going to chain 1 and turn. So chain 1 and turn, so we're going to be working back up along those stitches now. And we're going to work a decrease, and then 6 single crochet, and then a decrease. Chain 1 and turn. We're going to decrease, then 4 single crochet, and then another decrease, chain 1 and turn, decrease, 2 single crochet, and then a decrease, chain 1 and turn. We're going to work 2 decreases, chain 1 and turn, and then a decrease, and finish off. So there is his beard, and then you'll note that it does want to kind of stick up a little bit. Now you can sew this down the whole way around if you would like to, but all I'm going to do is take this tail, I'm going to weave it in and out of the stitches up a couple of rows so that it's on the inside. Then I'm just going to tuck it into the body. And that is going to hold it down in place. No sewing required. I am, of course, once again, at the luxury of knowing no one's going to really mess with this, so I don't have to really secure things. Tuck the other end of the beard in place too. And there is your finished Santa Claus. And he should fit comfortably in the front of the sleigh. So I hope you had fun making this little Christmas project with me. Let me know if you want to do this sort of thing again. And with that, we have completed our little scene. And I will see you on New Year's to count down my favorite designs from 2021. Okay, bye!